The transition from World War II to peacetime was less a time of peace and more a time of paranoia and tension caused by the rivalry between the Soviet Union and America, the difficulties of reconversion, and the growing fear of communism. The opposing visions and competing global interests of the Soviet Union and America led to a rivalry that defined the time periods of 1945 to 1950, known as the Cold War. President Truman believed that the only way to resist the threat of Soviet expansion was through a containment policy. He included the Marshall Plan that would lend aid to the economic reconstruction of Western Europe so they couldn't fall under pressure of growing communist parties. After China fell to communism in 1949, America realized it could no longer rely on other countries to take the initiative to resist communism. The United States also attempted to maintain an advantage in power through redoubling its own efforts in atomic research, while at the same time preparing their citizens in case a nuclear war occurs. This threat was becoming a part of everyday life, as seen through popular culture, such as movies and comic books, and frequent testing of air raids and the creation of fallout shelters in public buildings.
Besides the crisis overseas, America faced economic difficulties in the heated political climate. At first, the increase of consumer demand and government spending led to economic growth, but too much demand led to inflation. Reconversion also became an issue because returning veterans displaced millions of women and minorities in labor. Social and economic reforms in the field of labor unions, women concerns, and civil rights were also largely ignored during this time. Truman attempted to refine labor and expand federal aid through the Fair Deal, but the congressional conservatism greatly limited his attempts.
With the growth of communism by Joseph Stalin and the Soviet Union, Americans were becoming afraid of internal communist subversion. They began to believe that there was a communist conspiracy within the federal government. This led to the House Un-American Activities Committee, which was created by the Republicans in an attempt to attack the Democrats in government. The committee held nationally broadcasted investigations to determine that Democrats were allowing communism to occur. They first targeted the movie industry with the Hollywood blacklist, and then went on to targeting members of the State Department, including Alger Hiss. These suspicions also caused the initiation of the Federal Employee Loyalty Program, where over 2,000 employees resigned under pressure and more than 200 were removed. The McCarran Internal Security Act was passed by Congress, in which communist organizations were required to register with the government and report their records. These factors, including the Rosenberg case in the early 1950s, all contributed to this fear of a communist takeover, which made way to the rise of McCarthyism in later years.